wife are childbirth, going through a divorce, and actually moving house. And clearly the stresses involved in moving house are going to be made simpler and easier by the quality of the removal company that's undertaking the heavy lifting and shifting and packing and all the rest of it. I have with me Simon Ashton from Smart Move UK, who are a local-based removal company. He's very kindly come in to sort of talk about some of the more interesting aspects of the house moves. Now, I guess, Simon, we've seen a very volatile house market over the last 4 or 5 years or so.
Yeah.
I guess that must have impacted on your business in various ways, shapes and forms.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I cleverly or stupidly started my business just at the beginning of a recession, so really 2009, so the recession been going for about a year. Partly because I've been in removals all my life and had run a company before, but was starting up again on my own, trying to keep my overheads down, keep my costs down. And to begin with, my main work as a removal man was being a labourer on a building site because there was no removals going on. Nobody was moving. I still haven't moved anyone who's a first-time buyer for the last 5 years.
Right.
And over the period of those 5 years, it's been increasing every year by about 10 or 15% to the point where now we're busy.
So have you seen a real pickup this year?
Every year has been an increase about 15%, and since last August, it sort of kicked off. And I got back from a job this morning, excuse my appearance, about 12 o'clock from Scotland. We'd moved someone from the Dordogne in France up to Scotland over a period of days. Got back about midnight, had a sleep for about 3 hours, and I had a truck going up to London this morning at 4 o'clock, so I met the lads, sent them off. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to give them everything, make sure they've got the diesel money, the keys, the van starts. So I'm not going to get a phone call from people saying, where are they, or anything. I know they've gone. Had a couple more hours sleep, and then I had a packing crew going out to pack up a house, which we're moving tomorrow. And then I had an appointment this morning in Felixstowe, which is why I managed to meet up with you.
Right, so you really cover some quite large geographical areas then. So
we do, yeah.
You're doing removals in Europe as well as the UK?
We'll do anything from... My typical week will be moving a couple of pianos, just for one family here and one family there. We quite like that because you just turn up, put the piano on wheels, strip it down a bit, get it into the van, deliver it to the new house. That's quite fun work. It always looks very hard. And
so is it a case of no job is too small? Or
no job is too small.
Big?
No job is too small, and no job is too big. Partly because people have more and more stuff nowadays.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started in 1988, we used to traditionally we'd turn up with a Luton van, of which 3.5-ton Luton van, and 2 guys, and that was your job. That would be a household or a 2-bedroom house. Nowadays, invariably, we're always turning up with either 3 Luton vans if we can't get a big truck in, or just a 15-tonner, which takes about 2,200 cubic feet, which is a lot of stuff. So
but people aren't living in bigger houses, though, are they?
No.
But they're accumulating more stuff.
It's just part of our consumerism, I think.
Right.
But people just, I recently met a family and they had a television in every room.
Yes.
Kitchen, lounge, 3 bedrooms. So they had 5 televisions. Right. And that kind of mentality, there's nothing wrong with that, but that kind of mentality means that you don't only have 5 televisions, you have an Xbox, a PlayStation, and everyone has tablets, and then you have 17 boxes of toys for the single child.
Right.
And it just becomes more and more.
And the dishwasher and the washing machine.
And the American fridge freezer.
And
then you get your wardrobe boxes, which are a traditional way of hanging clothes so they don't crease. And you might have 22 wardrobe boxes with 25 garments in each one.
And all the ladies' shoes as well.
Yeah, that's just my wife's clothes. No, sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
So what's the most challenging move that you've ever had to carry out?
Interestingly, I think people always think that the big moves are going to be the most challenging. Last year I was part of a removal where we had 3 HGV lorries going up to Oban in Scotland over a period of 5 days. That was challenging because there was a lot of driving, and we had to come back with 1 empty truck and then load it up and drive back up again. So in the course of a week we did a lot of driving. That was challenging, but actually what very often you find challenging is when there are divorced couples, and you have to be very sensitive there.
Yeah.
Occasionally people have rung us up and said, can you move me next Tuesday, but can you arrive at 9:30? So we think, yeah, okay, arrive at 9:30. And just occasionally, only a couple of times in the last 25 years, the husband has turned up because he's forgotten his lunchbox and not realised his wife was moving out.
Really?
That's quite awkward, and then the police get involved, and you are involved, but you're not. Yeah. And so you have to, all the lads, they understand, they know the score, and they'll step back and say, look, sorry sir, but you would need to speak to your wife about this, we'll just step aside for a while. That can be challenging. And occasionally we've done these removals. I don't know if you ever remember that programme, Life of Grime, where people live in kind of squalid situations. Yes. We moved a guy from London who was a lovely old guy. He'd been in this council house, which his parents had been born in, lived in, and he was born in there. And he was about 50 or so, and we were asked to go and move him to Great Yarmouth from North London. And so we turned up. I'd seen the job, I'd done a quote, and it was just appalling. The kitchen floor was just like mulch. He had not been looking after himself. There was a bird cage and the bird droppings underneath the cage, or bird seed actually it was, which had just, and mice. And I went into his bedroom, and it was quite sad really. There was all these Airfix models he'd made as a kid, 45 years ago, still hanging there, but the cobwebs going from the models to the floor. And it was just quite surreal. He had an Afghan hound in the back garden, which had never been on the lead. And we said, how are you going to transport that, sir? And he said, oh, I've got a friend who's turning up with a vet, and they're going to sedate the dog and put it in this taxi and drive it to Great Yarmouth. Okay. So he paid £60 for a vet to have the dog sedated, and the Afghan hound just stood there like, yeah, have you got any more? So he paid another £60, sedated the dog again, whereby the dog collapsed onto one of our blankets. We carried it into the black cab. And as we arrived in Great Yarmouth and we carried it into the garden, it started coming round, right, which was a time for us to scarp it. And over the wall, quick, yeah. It was not a pleasant dog. But that was interesting. But I always say to my guys, I don't care if you're moving Lord and Lady so-and-so, or somebody like that gentleman there. Every job is a professional job. Attention to detail, really important.
Right, and it's about being able to give as much support as possible to the people.
I think so.
I mean, it seems to me from what you're saying, one of the most important things about the job is not just the technical aspects of packing and shifting stuff. It's about how you relate to the householders, how you relate to the people.
It's a bit like when you introduced the chat just now. Moving can be one of the most stressful things you do, apparently. And I say apparently because we do it every day, we don't think it's stressful, because we just come into a house, we either pack it or load it. And it's about human relationships and trying to put yourself in their situation. I had a classic case where one of my lads, he turned up at a lovely house, actually here in Felixstowe about 3 years ago, and he knocked on the door, and we didn't know this, but he knocked on the door and he said, it was a fantastic place, and the lady opened the door and he said, good morning madam, I can't believe you're moving from here, this is fantastic. What he didn't know was that they were being forced to move because they couldn't afford the house anymore. Right. And she just burst into tears.
Oh dear.
And it was awkward, and he worked his way around it. He's a very clever lad and sensible and knows how to understand. And he learned from that. Simon, I've learned that you can't just assume that everybody wants to move, or that people are moving for the right reasons or for the wrong reasons. He said, and so it's about listening first.
So communication skills are really important.
I think so.
I mean, you talk about your lads, so I'm getting the impression that that you've got a fairly young crew of people.
Well, our oldest guy is 60. He's fantastic. Yeah. He's been in the business 40 years. There are certain things I wouldn't have him do. I don't expect him to run around like an 18-year-old. We leave him loading the truck, to be honest, most of the time, because he's brilliant at it. Right. And then I've got young lads who are 18 who need to learn the business, and so they're what we call box carriers, because you start off by carrying boxes, and as long as you can physically carry the box, you're in a good position. Then you'll start filling wardrobe boxes, and you'll start putting mattress bags on mattresses, or you'll start putting the duvets and pillows into linen bags and taping them up, or you'll start sliding pictures and works of art into picture boxes. Stuff that pretty much can't go wrong, as long as you've got a degree of common sense. Right. The guys who are going to carry a £2,000 American fridge freezer out of the door need to have some experience. They need to know that if you catch that door on the fridge freezer, it's going to cost me money in insurance, and it's going to make it embarrassing for the customer, and actually the customer's going to look at you in a slightly different way. Everyone seems to buy a sofa from DFS, who have constant sales, don't they, for £2,000 and pay it off over 4 years. When that sofa goes into our truck and goes into their new house at the end of the day, they don't want to see any marks on it, quite understandably, and nor do I, and nor do the lads. And so it's important the right people do the right thing. I believe very much that you find people's strengths or weaknesses, and weaknesses, and put them in the right place. So if somebody is clumsy, probably don't have them on the firm actually, but certainly don't let them pack the fine china. This is ridiculous.
So some people have got certain skills in certain ways,
Everybody has certain skills, and you have to find out. We had a clumsy guy once, and the idea was just do the garden stuff, because if you drop the garden spade on the garden, it's probably going to be okay. If you drop the chandelier like the old Only Fools and Horses sketch, it's not going to be okay. And so we find the right people for the right jobs, and there's enough work in this business to find those different niches.
So, so do you? What are the important sort of strengths of one of you guys? I mean, is it physical strength? I mean, they do 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, don't they? Shifting enormous amounts of stuff up and down stairs and things. I mean, is physical strength an attribute?
Actually physical strength, as in what we consider the muscle guy. It's not actually as important as we'd all think. I'll give you 2 examples. Firstly, the real important thing is stamina, because actually, like you say, it's 10 or 12 hours a day. So I left for Scotland on Monday morning and got back at midnight last night, and I'd done a 30-hour session. So you need to know that if you're driving, you know what, I'm not going to be home for 8 hours, but I'm just going to, you
just have to keep at it.
Yeah, and there are times when you turn up at a job like the job I was talking about, which wasn't packed, and you're going to think to yourself, we have one guy who works for us, he says, you just have to dig deep. That's his expression. He's absolutely right. You just have to dig deep and say, you know what, it's going to be a long day, but if I go outside and have a cup of tea and whinge about it, it's going to be a longer day.
Right.
So you just need to crack on. You need to make sure everyone's working as a team. And the great thing about removals is you are working with a bunch of mates, because you become mates, because when you're carrying a washing machine down the stairs with someone in a flat, you need to know they're not going to let go. It's really important, because if they do, you're in serious trouble. Right. If you're bringing a piano down from the first floor and there's 4 of you doing it, and you're sliding it down,
you need to be able to trust each other.
You've got to have a real understanding of each other. You've got to know what each other's going to do, and you need to be able to communicate with each other. You don't want everyone to break down into arguments because so-and-so did this. It doesn't work. It's not good for the customer. But on the muscle side of things as well, we've got one guy he's a muscly guy. And we're doing a removal recently for a lady who had stressed to me the importance of her books. She's a book collector. She's got a lot of art books and stuff. And she'd paid special insurance for all of his books to be moved from her second floor flat to her house. I understood that totally. Well, this guy always likes to impress people with his muscles, so he's trying to carry 3 boxes at once. And she was impressed. And I said, I've got to tell you that she wasn't impressed. I've got to tell you, really, what she really wants is for those books to arrive safely. Carrying 3 boxes at a time, it saves us all time, but it isn't what she wants, and it isn't what I really want. I would just rather you carried 1 or 2, and maybe it took us an extra half hour in the day to do this job, but she might have £100,000 worth of books in those boxes. She had 60 boxes of books. It could quite easily be £100,000 worth of books. And if you drop a box and a book gets damaged on the corner, knowing my luck, it would be the most expensive book. And that's no good to me. And it's a bit like I was saying earlier about whether it's Lord and Lady so-and-so or the guy with the Afghan hound. Attention to detail is really important. And just do the job properly. And everything will be all right.
So what's the most stressful part of the business from your point of view? What comes up regularly as an issue that causes you, mental stress?
I suppose, firstly is making sure there's enough money in the bank on Friday to pay the wages. Traditionally, everyone used to pay by cheque, which meant you took 7 days to get your money. And if you've had a bad week and then you have a good week, but that money doesn't clear for another 7 days, you've got to know that you've got enough money in your pocket to pay the wages. You've got to pay your lads every Friday. They're working men. They expect to be paid on a Friday. They work very hard for it. And so on a Monday, I'm starting to think, right, am I going to have enough cash? And we've come out of the recession, and there's a bit more of a cushion now. It's good. But that's important, because if your men don't turn up on Monday because they haven't been paid, you can't do any more removals, and you can't make any money. So that's important. The other kind of stressful things, I suppose, are when... I don't know, somebody will ring you up, you have 2 guys on a job and say, Simon, we couldn't get it all on the truck and we've got to drive 50 miles and we need another vehicle. Can you send one? Well, that's not so easy because all my vehicles are out and I've got no other guys. And you're then into sort of panic mode because you don't want your customers ringing up and saying, Simon, we've left a load of stuff in the garden, why is that? And so it's a question of, I would then probably ring around a few other removal companies I know, I've got friends who run them, and say, have you got a Luton van available? Can you shoot over here? I'll give you £100, so and so. Resolving a problem for the customer, even if it costs me money, that's important. I mean, it does cause me stress. The reason I say it's important is because if it costs me money, I learn the lesson. If it doesn't cost me money, and I just say to the customer, well, you'll have to wait, we'll have to send another van back, you don't learn the lesson. I always find you learn lessons that cost you. So that kind of thing, it works for me. Next time you make sure the van is a bit bigger, or you've actually got a cubic foot right, which is what I call when you go around, you work out how many cubic feet there is in a house. If it's 2,000 cubic feet, you need a truck that holds 2,000 cubic feet. And so it's always learning your trade, isn't it, all the time, even after 25 years.
Do you ever find that you have difficulties around completion dates, where
Yeah.
solicitors are messing around?
It's a constant nightmare.
There's a date that's been set, everybody's geared up to that.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, somebody shifts the dates or...
It's very rare that we have a date set in stone until a week before. And the real issue you get then is a lot of removals happen Thursday and Friday, because obviously everyone wants to be in on Friday, so they've got the weekend to unpack. Right. I understand that, and people also, towards the end of the month, like to move, because then their mortgage starts on the first of the month, or whatever, or at the end of the month when wages come in. The problem with that is I can do nothing Monday and Tuesday, and I've got sort of ability to do 3 or 4 removals in a day, and then you can have 7 jobs booked in.
Right.
And you then have to ring up these people who you've formed a bit of a relationship with, because I go and do the quotes, and there are others who do it, but I'm the kind of manager I like to... my strength, I suppose, is I am a removal man, but I like people, I like communicating with people. So I like to meet the people. I generally win the quote if I go in and meet them, and it's a sensible price. And so I then sort of very often I say, I'll probably be the team leader on your removal as well, which becomes impossible once you've got more than 1 or 2 in a day. And so it's this people side of it. I like to meet them and see them all the way through. And then you've got this issue of, I can't do that removal now. Right. And you have to ring up these people who you start to form a relationship with and say, actually, I've got an issue with that date because you've only confirmed today and 3 other people have already confirmed, and I've got 3 guys on holiday, and I've got a truck.
This is where the whole thing gets very, very complicated.
It's really complicated.
Because then they will probably be part of a chain.
Yeah. They feel you've let them down a bit when you haven't really, but there is only a finite number of jobs that you can do in a day. And sometimes you can call in another company, would you mind helping me out here? I don't like that because...
Well, you've established a relationship with the... with your customer, and then you're passing it over to somebody.
And they don't view my customer as their customer. They see me as a customer.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's generally, if it goes wrong, the customer comes back to me and says, Simon, and so I don't like subcontracting work out. We recently did a job down to near the Spanish-Portuguese border for some people, and it was a great job. And the reason we got the job was they said, Simon, we've had a quote from another company, but they pointed out in their terms and conditions that they are entitled to subcontract this work out. So they might pick it up, but another company might deliver it. I said, we don't like that. I said, I've got to be honest, every terms and conditions will say that. You're always entitled to subcontract it out. But I can guarantee you that the same people who pick up this furniture from your house will be the same people who deliver it to Spain and Portugal, and I wouldn't expect you to pay me the remaining 50% of the balance if you go with us. I'd ask you for some deposit up front and then 25% when we set off, and 50% of the balance as we arrive in Spain, so that you know that it's definitely us turning up. And that's how we got the job, because people want to know that you're accountable from start to finish.
Yes, I mean, it must be a very competitive business. I mean, a large number of removal companies around all competing for business. So what really sets you apart? What is it about your service that enables you to win business compared with other removal companies? What's unique about Smart Move?
It's a good question. I'd like to say it's because of my guys, but that's not completely accurate, because there are lots of good guys working for lots of removal firms.
Is it about price, or is it about
it's
reputation?
It's something to do with price, although I'm very rarely the cheapest. I don't try and do things cheaply, because I think very often removals you're asked to go the extra mile. So, you put the piano down and somebody comes down and says, actually, the piano doesn't work, can you move it? And you move it. We have moved the piano record 7 times in one room, which after that I had to say, you know what, this is the final time we've done. But you go the extra mile all the time. And I feel if you do a job cheaply, you will be very reluctant to go the extra mile. I recently lost a job which was a £650 job. I quoted it out. It was a relatively big job. And I got an email, actually, I opened it up this morning as I got back to the warehouse at 12. And it said, sorry, Simon, somebody's doing this for 460, we're not going to use you. And I worked it out, they're not going to make any money. And, now they've won the job, they're going to think, I wish we'd done a bit more. And when they turn up at that job, and they've got to put furniture out of windows, they've got to wrap stuff, they've got pictures to go in picture boxes, about 50 pictures, they're actually going to start cutting corners. Don't put the pictures in boxes because it was only 460 quid. And it goes wrong. So we're not the cheapest, we're not the most expensive. There are some very expensive people out there. We're normally the middle of the road. What sets us apart, I think, is our reputation, but also, again, it comes back to the three words: attention to detail.
Right.
I just think it's really important. I do some work for a local artist, and they had a load of pictures delivered at Christmas for a party, and they had all this blue polystyrene protection around it. So, and they asked me to throw it all away. So I thought, well, anytime we wrap a picture now, we're going to wrap it like the professionals do in blue polystyrene. The guys enjoy it because it makes them look professional, and the customer thinks, oh, that's a nice touch.
Good, yeah.
But also, I don't get any damage on pictures or mirrors. And so something,
that little extra detail,
little
bit
extra,
of extra expense,
mattress bags,
gives the customer a sense of security that
Absolutely.
things are being done properly, that they
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the quality
Yeah.
of the packing and all the rest of it.
Unfortunately for us, the real problem is that people only begin to trust you as a group or as a firm or as a team of lads when you're halfway through the removal. So when we arrive at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning and we say hi,
You're an unknown quantity.
they know me, and then I just say, well, this is John, this is Jim, and this is James, or whatever, and they shake hands and say, all right, good, and then we start. They still don't know who we are.
Sure.
They've never actually seen me carry a piece of furniture. They're just going on what they've heard or the fact that they trusted me when they met me. And very often what you see is they're quite stressed to begin with, and then about 11 o'clock you see them starting to relax because they realise, A, you're doing all right, B, you are going to get it all in the vehicles, and C, you haven't damaged anything yet, so you must be all right. And then when they get their keys to a new house, they sort of go, and they just change completely, and suddenly it's cup of tea, boys.
Right.
And, and by the time you leave, I did one job. I've moved some people 3 times, and last time I did it with this 60-year-old guy. And as she came out, I've known these people for years. As we come to the end, she shook my hand and she gave this guy a kiss and a hug.
Really?
I think,
really?
what have I done wrong? But actually, she'd met me 3 times, so she didn't need to give me a kiss and a hug. But this guy, she'd met him once, and when she met him, she thought, he's 60. What's he going to be like? Actually, he's got 40 years' experience. He's better than all of us.
Yes, he does things in a smart way.
He's as strong as an ox, and he's brilliant. And she was so relieved, but she wouldn't have known that until he'd done the work. And so the problem for us is we are competing against other people who also got a front man like me, and are also trying to be competitive, and also saying my lads are brilliant.
It must be difficult for the householder because trying to make a judgment as to whether you're doing the job properly or not. Because like you say, people don't move that frequently, do they?
No.
And it's a situation that they're not familiar with, and suddenly they're seeing all these guys running around, and they can't know whether the job's being done properly or not unless they have got an eye for detail, like the pictures being wrapped properly.
And also having a team leader.
Yeah,
it's really important. I know a couple of firms who they don't have a team leader, so you just go in and the lads just get on with it, and it works. But actually, what the customer needs is a point of reference.
Yes, that's right. They need a single point of contact, don't they? So if there are any queries or any problems, they're dealing with that guy rather than.
If you've got a team of 5 in a house,
I mean, if you've got a team of 5,
you don't want to remember every name.
And that's right. And you don't want to be saying to one guy, "Look, remember to put that thing there," and then he doesn't communicate it to the others.
It's no good at all. You need a team leader who they can talk to. And so, I mean, if I'm the team leader, very often, actually, the lads sort of laugh and say, oh, floating about, so I'm not doing too much work. I said, well, actually, A, I pay your wages. B, I'm a bit older than you. But actually, my job here is to be the liaison between the customer and you guys, so that when you come in with a chest of drawers, we unload a truck really quick. It's quicker than loading, because when you load a truck, you've
got to plan out how
you do
it all
base
goes.
boxes and awkward for stuff like chairs at the top, so it all sits still and safe. When you unload a truck, you just pick something and take it in. And so if you're the customer, you can have 5 guys coming into your house every sort of 2 minutes. Where do you want the chest of drawers, madam? Where do you want the piano? Where's this chair going? Where's this picture? And it's impossible for customers. So you need to sort of plan it out a bit, right? Say, guys, well, I'm going to put some post-it notes or leaflets on these. So that's bedroom 1, that's bedroom 2, and talk it through with the customer. We had a job last week recommended us by an estate agent, and it was a lovely little job, but for an 82-year-old guy, really nice guy, but he hadn't moved for 40 years. And he had no family, never been married, no children. His only family lived in Australia. So he didn't have any help. So I said to him, look, we're going to pack you and move you. Why don't we unpack for you as well? Because it's going to be a chore for you. I said, it's up to you, I'll give you a price. And he did say that. And the estate agent went and I said, yeah, could you unpack for me? When we came to the new house, everything we took in, it was like, where would you like this? He said, moved for 40 years. This was a totally new experience. And for him, the answer, somewhere in the house, was good enough. For us, it isn't, because you can't put a piano in the wrong room, you've got to move it.
So I'm getting the sense here, Simon, that it's all about organisation, it's about planning.
Yeah.
And the better planned it is, people thinking in advance about where stuff's going to go, marking up on the boxes what rooms they're going to go in,
really
makes
useful.
your life easier, it makes it easier for them because they know what's in the boxes.
No, absolutely.
Rather than just a great heap of them in a
and
hallway,
when you leave at 6 o'clock that night and they think, you know what, I fancy a bottle of wine. Where is it? It's really helpful if there's a wine box, a box just with wine in it, so that they can find it, rather than, this is herbs and spices with a bottle of wine packed in a
Right,
container.
so I presume then that you would always give householder advice as to
Yeah.
what they should do the night before
Yeah.
and what they should do on the day. So,
Yeah, generally I will try. I will always do that as much as I can. Partly because that makes my life easier.
So what would you recommend somebody do the night before? And
Well,
on the
for
day?
example, we're moving some people tomorrow. Well, a couple of families tomorrow, but one of the ones we're moving tomorrow, we're packing today, so the crew are out there packing. And so when I went round to do the quote, I said to her, when we come in to pack, she said, can I go to work? I said, as soon as you've shown the lads around, you're very free to go to work. I totally trust the guys, and you can trust them in your house, and it's fine. He said, okay, fine. What do I need to do? I said, be organised. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, when you come home from work at 5 o'clock tonight, this evening, or the day we're packing, we won't be there. So you'll walk into your flat and it's going to look very different. Your furniture will still be there, you'll still be able to sleep in your beds, and we'll leave a telly for you, but everything will be boxed up. So if you haven't put plates, free plates, because it's a family free plates, free knives and forks, free cups, free mugs, some orange squash for the baby, and some food aside, you're going to have a takeaway, and you'll have to borrow some knives and forks. And so I said, just put everything. We all know in our firm that if people leave stuff in the kitchen sink, that's not for us to pack.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be a saucepan, some baby milk or whatever. So I say, put stuff that you need from the kitchen in the sink, and they'll pack everything else. And listen to me, they will pack everything else. They'll leave you your kettle and your toaster, but don't expect to open the cupboard because you need some tomato puree and find it. It won't be there. Likewise, in your dining room or in your lounge, you will need some paperwork for the sale of your house. You're going to need to read your gas meter, your electric meter, your water meter. You're going to need to ring your solicitors and your estate agents. You're going to need to ring your bank. You're going to need your PIN card so you can do a bank transfer to either pay me or to pay your estate agents or however it works. I said, so put that aside in a bag on the kitchen, on the lounge coffee table or something. Tell the lads which is not to be packed, and they'll pack everything else. Likewise in the bedroom. You might want your pyjamas, you might want a lamp, you might want to finish your favourite book. But it will be packed if you don't put it somewhere sensible. It's about logistics. You see all these lorries and they've taught them. So logistics is a massive word. It's basically about being organised and making sure everything goes smoothly. So when we turn up on tomorrow morning to do this removal, all the guys have got to do is a final couple of boxes of packing the stuff that they had for tonight. Otherwise, it's dismantle furniture, get it in the van, boxes in, load up and go. In a new house, unload, build the furniture again, and we can go. Our day is hard enough as it is. It's a really tough job, actually. But don't make it harder for yourself by not telling people to be organised.
So clearly it is a tough job. What led you into this business in the first place, Simon?
Not being very good at school, I think. School wasn't my finest moment. No, I was born in a village near Woodbridge, and there was a local guy who ran a man with a van firm. Mm-hmm. And I'd done a lot of factory work and farm work. I tried it all, and for me, it wasn't for me, that kind of work. I just found it just didn't really float my boat, so to speak. And a lot of my mates and I, it was just a question of, well, shall we go and speak to so-and-so and see if they'll employ us? And he had a group of Luton vans, about 5 or 6 Luton vans, and he'd send us out to the American air bases and to Woodbridge and just do these little removals. And the interview, I remember the interview was, we'd drive from this village up to
yes, I was going to ask, is there a formal interview process?
This one wasn't very formal. This one was driving the Luton van round a roundabout and back to the village. And if we drove it sensibly, we got the job.
So the interview was actually driving the van around the roundabout.
Yeah.
And if it didn't fall over, you got the job.
Yeah, if you didn't go too fast and burn too much rubber, then you got it. And I must admit, my interview isn't like that at all. But most of the people I employ are people I know or people who know someone, because you're looking for a character, you're looking for a kind of sense of trustworthiness, you're looking for someone who will graft, as we say, you're looking for someone who can communicate, you're looking for someone who's got some common sense, you're looking for someone who will develop stamina and doesn't want to go home at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And you need to find someone who you know, and so nearly everyone who works for me has been someone who's come to me through a friend or someone who I've worked with on another firm, but they're self-employed, and they said, you know what, I think about leaving, well, give me a call when you do and we'll see how we get on. And we're all self-employed. It seems to be the way ahead. Most removal firms now, whatever they say, are employing self-employed people. It saves on holiday pay, etc. Unluckily for all of us, the lads don't like it, and nor do I don't get holiday pay either. But it means that people are really keen to work. With a self-employed guy, if he turns up and he's lazy and no good, you just don't have to ring him again.
Get the job again.
You don't have to ring him again. If he's on the books, you can't get rid of him. And it means also that self-employed people, they know that when they come to work for me, they need to impress. They need to have all the things that we talk about in our firm, because they want the next call. Because self-employed people have to work for 3 or 4 different companies to keep themselves busy. and it works really well.
Right.
We've got a great team of people. There's as few as 3 of us to up to 15 of us. So we've done big office
So
moves.
you can flex, you can expand
Yeah.
the team and reduce it.
And if I'm
on the
quiet,
workload.
they'll find work with other firms. So and if it's really quiet, in January and February, I guaranteed some of my lads 20 hours a week because it was very quiet. And you know what? They knew that it cost me money, and my warehouse was as tidy as it ever been because we were sweeping the floor numerous times. But they actually really value the fact that I took them on board and valued them, and that I knew that they needed some money each week. And they're out there. I met one of them this morning at 4 o'clock, and off he went to London to do his thing. And the other one I met at 6:30, and off he went to do his packing job. And they're still there. And for me, that's really valuable. People who stay around, because I haven't got to retrain people. And you develop this relationship which works. And they're brilliant lads. I love them working for me, and I hope they like working for me, you know.
Right, Simon, thank you very much. I mean, it's some fascinating insights
good,
in
thank you.
there. I mean, it looks like a crude, hard, difficult kind of business to be in,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of subtlety
Yeah.
clearly involved in
Yeah.
dealing with people, in customer relationships,
Yeah.
Planning, the whole logistical thing. Absolutely fascinating.
No, thank you.
Thanks for coming in,
No,
and
thank you.
I hope you have a slightly less stressful remainder of the week after
I
your long
hope
trip
so.
up to Scotland.
Yeah, no, will do.
So
Thank you very
good
much.
luck with everything.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.